Go into the woods and collect 8 pages. Thing is, there's a man in a suit stalking you, and he doesn't seem to have a face. Oh, and if you see him, you die. The character model for the mysterious Slender Man is awful, but part of the genius is that the game was designed around that. You don't want to look at him. Few games pull off the jump scare as effectively as Slender does, and for whatever reason, it worked on me every damn time. I'm never going to beat Slender, and that's okay. If you told me a game built upon QuickTime events with a goofy anime storyline would be one of my favorites of the year, I'd have laughed forever. That was before I played Asura's Wrath and discovered a developer correctly using a design tool I had all but written off. Asura's Wrath is insane, with each chapter somehow topping the next. All the while, it employs QuickTime events that make you feel like you're part of the action. It's too bad the true ending is locked behind downloadable content. I'm not going to argue Papo.io is one of the better playing games this year. It isn't. But it tells the deeply personal story about designer Vander Caballero's relationship with his father. A relationship with abuse, sadness, regret, and death. Games are bad at talking about death because it's usually a core mechanic. You didn't have to have a terrible relationship with your father to relate to the story of Papo.io. You just had to have the experience of letting someone go and trying to finally move on. Some people got Flower and some people didn't. Depending on what side of the fence you were on, the other side was taking crazy pills. With Journey, that game company wrapped its love of the abstract into the familiar construct of the third-person platformer and gave it a story with real emotional punch. Journey is precisely the length it needs to be. Its experimentation with non-verbal multiplayer has lessons for the rest of the industry, and those final moments, truly unforgettable. It's been a long time since I've truly gone down the rabbit hole with a video game. Mini-maps and other systems have replaced the old pen and paper. But I have pages of notes filled with lunacy and gibberish. I feel bad for anyone who has only finished Fez once. Fez's madness truly begins the second time around, when you're transported into the mind of the eccentric and polarizing designer Phil Fish. If there was ever a game that encapsulated a person, Fez is it. It sure had one hell of a soundtrack, too. I've been waiting for a true successor to Deus Ex since Ion Storm botched its own sequel. Dishonored is a masterful reinvention of this very specific type of game. Like Mark of the Ninja, Dishonored gives the player all sorts of information about the world around them, presents tools to interact with that world, and then steps away. Want to be a stealthy assassin? You can. If you like murdering everything in Dunwall, go for it. More likely you'll end up with a mixture of both, and each has its own satisfaction. If there was a meaningful pattern behind my favorites in 2012, it was games convincing me to enjoy genres that I'm not usually interested in. Stealth is totally one of those genres. Rather than hiding information from the player and focusing on learning through trial and error, Mark of the Ninja provides players with all of the information. At a glance, everything is represented with precise visual cues. It's easy to act like a badass in Mark of the Ninja, and you feel in total control the whole time. ZombiU should have been total garbage. It's a launch title for a new Nintendo platform from Ubisoft. Yet, ZombiU is one of this year's most interesting games. It's smart, scary, and hard as hell. By lifting elements from roguelikes, Dark Souls, and others, I should have been turned off immediately. Now, I'm a believer. All that, and it also has novel, practical use of the gamepad, and it meaningfully integrates other players into your world. ZombiU isn't just a great launch title, it's a great game. The last time I tried to go back and play XCOM, I took a few steps off the ship and everyone died. So to say that I was skeptical of enjoying XCOM Enemy Unknown was an understatement. But Firaxis took a traditionally impenetrable genre of video games and opened it up to everyone. Enemy Unknown doesn't betray the values that made XCOM XCOM, Yet it tweaks its approach just so that newcomers are comfortably guided into its twisted system of punishment, patience, risk, and reward. There was little enthusiasm for another Telltale game after Jurassic Park, but The Walking Dead employed player choice in subliminally meaningful ways, convincing players they were in control while the designers secretly pulled the strings. We screamed, we shrieked, and some of us, more than we'd like to admit, shed a tear. The Walking Dead is a triumph for interactive storytelling and proved what's possible when episodic is done right. Lee and Clementine's journey will not soon be forgotten.